could do that. Thank you. So this is done last, I'm going to do this every Monday, but this is done last Monday. And I just want you to call your attention to the changes that we're seeing in the market. And I want to show you how you can go and get these for yourself. But you take a look at, we're dividing this into all of Southwest Florida MLS and then Collier County and Lee County. But if you start taking a look at what's happening in the market, for the most part, in my humble opinion, this is healthy. You see, we had 837 new listings. We had 831 sold. We had 829 pending, and we had 600 price drops. That's a pretty substantial change from what we were looking at not even a month ago. So what you see happening here is balance returning to the market, more new listings coming in, a more balanced sold listing, indicating maybe we have at least a modest drop in terms of demand. But the bottom line is, when you see balance like this, you see the conditions are right for a healthier situation for both buyers and sellers. So if you take a look at the pending amount being less than the new listings, this is, although slightly positive, it's an indication that more listings are coming into the market than that are being sold or pending. And one of the reasons is, take a look at the number of price drops in the last 7 days, is 600. That's quite a bit more price drops than we've had. And what we're seeing here is agents or sellers that were looking for a very high price that felt like, well, the last one sold for 850,000. I'm going to price mine, 10% over that and go at 925. And all of a sudden they're finding out that, hey, the kind of price increases that you saw in the last year or two, especially in the last 6 or 8 months, are starting to mellow quite a bit. And the number of multiple offers we're seeing is down a little bit. We're still seeing multiple offers, but not as many per listing. And so the market's doing what it said it would do. It said it would try to react to conditions, and the conditions were very few listings available, very high buyer demand. So that caused a lot of price increases. And on our monthly reports, which will be out next week, we usually do them around the 10th, you'll start to see, I hope, that median prices are coming down. So this is all good. So if we're looking for a shift, then the shift is really a pretty good thing at this point. I did a little piece on an article last week that I read that said, stop Googling bubble, because those that are expecting a precipitous price drops and conditions that we had in 2006 and 7 and 8, those were based on speculative lending. The market fundamentals are much better than they have been in some time. So you're seeing a very healthy adjustment to the market, but certainly not a bubble, and certainly not impending conditions to create major price drops in the market. However, part of this stabilizing fact is that interest rates are double what they were a year ago. So affordability, the affordability index has changed. Okay. Anyhow, the affordability situation is what we're looking at, in that even though better than 60% of our deals are cash, still the fact is that those looking to finance, whether it be for the benefit of their other investments doing well, or they actually need the mortgage to be able to afford the home, As you start to see those rates go up, and they're even at 5 or 5.5, they're way below, the average of 8 to 9% that we've been on for the last 30 years. So rates are still good. They're just not as quite as fantastic as they were a year ago. So what you're seeing is quite a bit of stability in the market. Look at Collier, 287, 289, and 238. Same pattern as we saw in the overall market. And Lee County, 510, 531, 552, a little bit more pending properties than new listings. So the time is right to continue to put this in your Facebook page every Monday. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to do that yet this morning, but it'll be in there today. Share this with your customers, especially those buyers that were quite frustrated by the lack of supply. So Mark says what we think about the inventory level last year at this time and the recent inventory 2 months ago, it's not surprising the number of closed sales are what they are. That's true because there haven't been as many listings available for sale. But the trend, I think, is good in that we're starting to see more input into the funnel than being pulled out of the funnel. At least it's starting to balance. Before, there was severely more pendings and sold listings than new listings, which creates a continued lack of supply. And we have seen the inventory since December climbing a little bit up to probably a month and a half supply, which is still very much a seller's market. But we are seeing the inventory climb, and we're having the added benefit of price drops from sellers that were overly exuberant about what they felt like was going to happen in their market. So that's my market update for today. As I say, I'm going to put this out on the Facebook page every Monday, just so you can kind of see what's going on. We monitored it quite extensively during COVID, and then kind of as things started to improve and the market started to become very active, we kind of trailed off in this, but it's a good report, one that we need to rejuvenate. So there we go. All right, so who do we have on? We have Mark and we have Peter.
I was going to say,
You're on twice, Mark. Sorry.
I was going to say I got two things on. Hold on. I was going to say your statistics for Lee County compared to Collier County are interesting, and that it's not the same market as far as I know. The price points are different, but the units are going in different directions. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I definitely think that the situation in Lee County is entirely different. I'm going to put up real quick the luxury market stats, because that's where you really see a lot of difference there. So let me here.
And what we may be seeing is in those Lee County numbers are people who Collier County prices are not within their range.
Right.
So they're shifting up to Lee County.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely true. And if we take a look at the luxury market graphics for Collier and Lee for April,
We experienced that back in 2004, 2005, when the market was red hot in Collier County and buyers got priced out of the market. And therefore they had to find something that they could afford. And they had to go to Lee County, Fort Myers, Lehigh Acres, Cape Coral, simply because they couldn't get what they wanted in Collier County at the price they could afford.
all right, so let me go back and share the numbers that we talked about Friday for luxury. And again, the same thing really holds true. The markets are entirely different than they were, and we're starting to see separation in between the two markets. So these are the Collier numbers for sales over $1 million. And if you take a look at the price increases are very modest. And we're starting to build a little bit of inventory, although overall we're the same as we were a year ago. we're starting to see 4 months of inventory in single family homes, which is a positive sign. Condos still coming down some because much of the demand shifted to condos when the single family homes went completely out of inventory or nearly out of inventory. And look at sales, down 12% overall, 10% for single family homes and 16% for condos. But promising in that we had 518 new listings come into the market in April 22, and that's 62% more than last year. And we only had 444 pendings, which was down. But if you take a look and compare and contrast this to Lee County, it's really dramatic. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Look at Lee County prices, median prices down a little bit or modestly up for condos. But let's take a look at the sales, up 13% overall, 11% for single family homes and 23% for condos. So as you say, Mark, the luxury market may be shifting up to Lee County because really the pricing and the amount of inventory is better. Although we see some pretty significant drops in inventory year over year, we still have pretty healthy, not pretty healthy, but still well within the seller's market. But as you start getting to 4, 5, and 6, now we're starting to approach a balanced market. So prices holding pretty well, 99% overall, but sales going up in Lee County, pendings going up, and look at the number of listings up 104% over last year. So Lee County behavior, if you're working with customers, is substantially different than Collier behavior. So there you go.
Jeff, the other thing that in looking at these numbers, and I know that most people are going to watch this video later on, I always try to think of what's not shown on the screen. How do you read between the lines? And one of the things that pops out of my mind is we have agents who specialize in certain condominiums, developments, neighborhoods, geo areas, beachfront, golf course communities in Collier County. And they would drive and show properties in Fiddler's Creek, and they would go out to Ave Maria. And yet how well are they versed in the Lee County market, Bonita Springs, Estero, South Fort Myers? Because oftentimes our buyers will begin searching in Collier or Naples, and they can't find what they're looking for. And are our agents as knowledgeable as they could be on the markets that are immediately adjacent to us? So again, you might find something in Bonita Springs that would fit exactly what the buyer's looking for. And yet you need to be aware of those different communities and developments and fees and locations and amenities, as well as the ones that are in Collier County.
Yeah, that's true. Because and one of this chart, the comparison of these charts is pretty significant when you take a look at the difference in the behavior of the two markets and the difference in supply and all those kinds of things. So I want to show you a little bit here about Marius. Hello. I want to show you a little bit here about where you can get this information and how you can use this to your advantage. So everybody has an MLS subscription, right? And everybody has a main dashboard, and on your dashboard are a couple of really interesting things. First of all, you have a chance to see the market watch for the overall market. You can do this for the last 7 days, 3 days, or a day. I usually use it over 7 days. But the point is that you can get a snapshot of the overall market. Here we're seeing 854, 1054, 865, a little bit higher on the sales, but similar. And look at 730 price decreases. So you can take a look every morning. And one of the things that we're seeing, I don't know how many of you are on the James Shaw call, but we're starting to see the value of information to our customers, better, more important than ever. We were talking to them about how much equity they had in their home and why it's a good time to sell. And a lot of the sellers said, hey, where am I going to go? Well, now you start to see the listing picture improve and the market balance a little bit more. So now those same sellers that were like, gee, I'd like to sell at these prices, but I don't have anywhere to go. Now they have options, and that's a good thing. As the market balances out, and as we start to see, 845 new listings in a week is a good lick. Well, what do I do? How can I use this for the market that I'm in? Well, you can see you can customize this little matrix to anything you want. You can go in for, let's say Mark said we want to look at Bonita and see what Bonita's done over the last 7 days. Now we're back and we start to see a little different picture. New listing 66, sold 107, pending 60, and price decreases 47. So now we're starting to see a little bit, still quite a few more sales than new listings, but the balance of price decreases and pendings kind of levels out here. So I urge you to look at this when you, as part of your morning routine. You can always reset and go back to the overall market, or you can customize and you can look at a development. You can look at an area, a geographic area, to see what is happening in a geographic area or group of geographic areas. And of course, you can partition this to single family homes, and they're very similar to a standard real estate search. You're getting the ability to do this to zero in on a market or keep up with your existing markets. The other thing that I think is important is to get to know, we've done several sessions on InfoSparks, but InfoSparks is a great resource to look at data over a period of time, and you can really zero it down to quite interesting levels. So try that, see if we get. So InfoSparks is available to you either as you can make it a little widget on your desktop, or you can select it out of the pick list in all the links that are there. But one of the interesting things is you can compare up to 4 markets here. So if I look at the overall market, and then I want to look at, well, let's look at Lee here.
Sorry, I'm back. I stepped away for a moment.
No problem. Okay, so I'm just doing a little dog and pony on InfoSparks. It's a tool that's available on your desktop application under other links. You can make it into a widget, put it on your desktop, but you have this tool available to you, and it basically, we have it set up in this particular thing to run on monthly for the last 3 years, but you can run on a rolling 12 months, and you can start to see, this is basically rolling average every 12 months. You can do a rolling 3 months, you can do monthly, you go back 3 years, you go back as far as you want to go. So it's a nice tool. And again, if we're talking about the value that we're presenting to our customers as they start to look at the current real estate market, this is important to have this information. And I believe there's like 13 different pieces of information that you can track, and you can add 4 developments. You can have 2 counties here. You can have geocodes, and you can control the price ranges in each one, the property types. You can drill this down pretty significantly to take a look at a particular area or look at market trends.
Jeff, are the things at the bottom, two to the right, shows to pending and shows per listing, is that pulling from showing time?
Yep. This is actually a showing time product that we added on to our showing time listings. But this is a nice thing to show your customers, what's happening in the last, and this is month by month. So you're seeing that showings per listing from January to May are down substantially. And this is Collier County even more significantly. Look at the showings per listing in January, 11.
Can you switch that to the 3-year?
Yeah. So the last time we saw this low of a listing count was what? Probably 20, well, this was COVID right here. So you started at the end of 2020, you started to see this come back up into 2021. Then as we had less and less listings, it started down. And then we started adding listings in really in January and come out. One of the things that we added this for is for sellers. Okay. And again, we're looking, the blue line is Collier, the orange line is Lee, but this is the average number of showings to pending. So, and that's the median. We can look at the average. There we go, a little different result. But look what's happening. The number of showings per pending is still up there pretty good. So if your seller's like, well, we've been on the market for 2 days, we've only had 2 showings, this is a nice chart to kind of show them traditionally over time what kind of showings you needed to get to a pending. And look at it, notice it's higher, a little higher in Lee than it is in. So you are welcome to use any one of these things to look at market trends. Look at the pending market trends in Lee versus Collier. So you're starting to see more inventory and more pending deals. You can look at month supply. Again, it's way down from 2021, which is where we started. So we're still seeing, a fairly low amount of inventory there. This is the total number of sales, and you can see that it's kind of getting a little flatter here. But Lee County is still quite a few more. So I'd use this as a tool. You can, not sure I can.
What I like about that, Jeff, is you can segment it by prices on the left.
Yep. You can look at everything that's
so it's not a matter of saying, it's like they say real estate is all local. Well, it's also by price bracket also.
correct.
So I don't know if you can, did you say you could drill down to a geo area or a zip code or a map?
I put these 0 here. 0 here. So if I look at prices that are, this is just 750,000 and up, you can start to see that I didn't quite get all that. I need to clear it. Custom, cancel, custom, clear. There you go. So if I just want to look at 750,000 and up, or 750,000 to 1 million.
You might have to do $9.99.
Yeah, I'll see if I can. All right, whatever. So, but I can now start to really produce some really good information for my buyer, depending upon the range that they're looking in Collier and Lee. And yes, you can add a geo area in here by just going to the table here and go to a geo area, right? So
Do
I can-
NA04 if you don't mind.
Sure.
Since that's right next to our office.
Unfortunately, when when you get into smaller sample sizes, that it isn't quite as dramatic, because you're looking at only a smaller number of sales here. But the nice thing is you can print a report here in a PDF form, and I'll probably have to stop that share, but see if I can. I can capture that. There it is. So we're able to print a report here. Not showing. Oh, there it is. Okay. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
So you can print a report. It can be tailored to you, and you can send that to your customer. If there's a drawback to this one, you can't put more than one stat on the same page. So you got to kind of limit yourself to but there is some nice.
If I'm reading this correctly, that red line at the bottom
That's
says there's only one sale.
Well, you're going from 0 to 500 there. So you'd have to go back to the.
Oh, okay.
You have to go back to the actual map itself. That, like I said, that's the problem. You have to kind of have similar. See, there's plenty of sales.
Got it. You got to move your mouse along there.
Yeah, 30, 34, 35, 37. So you got to be a little careful of your scale, but I mean, this is a really great, there, look at, there's the median closed price in Pelican Bay there. You can see how it's quite a bit above the Naples market, the Collier County market. So again, like I say, you can make this very detailed. You can do very nice comparisons over the key statistics. And there you go. You see all we're very little month supply. This is another one that's pretty good for your customers that say, I think I'll make an offer that's lower than list. You might want to try to give them as much data as you can before they make that decision. Another thing that I always recommend is if your customer is interested in making an offer, always call the listing agent, even if it's just to say hello and introduce yourself and say, I have a customer that's very interested. Can you tell me a little bit more, about your listing? So it really can help you. Then you can say to your customer, gee, I called the listing agent. They have 3 offers and all 3 of them over list price. So I'm not sure how offering less than list price would be a good strategy for you. Not trying to change their mind, but trying to give them information that would help them to make their decision. All right. So as far as stats goes, that's pretty much what we were looking at. I do have another thing that I wanted to share with you that I discovered this morning. Okay, let me see where I am here. Let's see what I can share. Yep. Okay, so can you see that okay? Yes? So this is in Command. When you log into Command, you can go into the upper right-hand corner of your main screen, and there'll be a little picture of a market. Actually, I probably could do that. share. Share screen. Yeah, okay. I'm going to share that. Okay, so everybody has a command screen, right? And you can you see, can everybody see this screen okay? Yes?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Do you see this little marketplace thing here?
I
Yes,
can. I
sir.
never noticed it before.
Okay, so then maybe this is good because I'm going to try to show you, a lot of things that are available to you that you may not already know. So let me stop that share. Let me go. Share that. Share screen. Okay, so if you do that, you will get to a place that is called the KW Marketplace. And there's all kinds of different categories here, but I'm just wanting to make you aware of various things that are available from the KWRI products. And what, do you see this Market My Listing? So what can you get for $175? I don't know whether will the details show up if I do this. Can you see that? Effortlessly.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So now several people have tried this. This is a KWRI backed product. And what this will do for you is for $175, this will create social media ads for you. It will actually create a Facebook ad campaign. It will not pay for the campaign, but it will create the campaign for you. It will create an open house flyer. It will set up a smart plan for you to announce this listing to your database. Just listed flyer, a property brochure for use inside your listing for open houses, a just listed postcard, and an email campaign that you can use to broadcast and promote your listing. And it uses the design features of Command, but it's basically you're giving them your listing ID and it's producing all of these things for you and helping you to distribute them, including developing a Facebook advertising, targeted advertising program for you. So I just want you to be aware that there's a lot of things out there that are relatively inexpensive that might help you as an agent. How about Market My Luxury Listing? Now we're talking about for $20 more one time. Now they're going to use all of this. Is if you have a listing that's over $1 million in Collier County or Lee County, then you can, by paying this money, you will get a complete luxury ad and brochure campaign, right? Using the luxury graphics. And you're going to get quite a bit of advertising material. Again, the same features, but using the KW luxury. And these, they say, are print ready files. So these can be used anywhere you want. And you're getting all of these products produced very quickly. So the price does not include the cost to run the Facebook ad, but it will create a Facebook ad for you. So there's just a lot of things that, we've been asked, do you have any marketing support? Do you have, and there's an awful lot of things in here that you can use to help your business for, a relatively inexpensive one-time shot there. So again, this is for luxury listings. It includes logo creation, signature design, luxury branded business cards. These are things that they'll do for you if you have a luxury listing. Now this one is for KW earn-in luxury agents only. You can become a KW earn-in luxury agent in our market by having 2 sales over $1 million within the last 24 months. Does it have to be live in MLS to begin the design? I'm guessing that it's getting its data from KWLS, which is syndicated from MLS. So I think it has to be live. It might be possible that you could share images and everything with them by just asking them what they need to do the graphics. There's an interesting one here for new agents that I discovered this morning. This is a very interesting one here. Is this sharing okay? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, well, look at the cost for this. It's free. This is what's coming from KW Enablement, which is a new arm of KW University, but they're called KW University Enablement courses. They're free. This will take you through contract to close for your first deal all the way to compliance, right? It's an hour and a 30-minute training. It's recorded so that when you get done with a session, you have the recording, because you could say, well, I don't remember what they said from here to here. Let me go back and look. Sometimes I think we don't do a great job of telling people all of that we have available. But, if you're a new agent and you're going to use DocuSign and do command, this will take you through creating the contract, creating the opportunity, creating your documents in DocuSign, getting them signed, and then submitting your documents for compliance. And obviously, this is a great way if you want to get paid to have this knowledge. And obviously, we teach this class. Anthony and I do a couple of workshops on this, but this is from KWU to you free. Pretty nice stuff. So there's an awful lot of things that you can find in this in this marketplace that I remember when I first looked at it, there was like 3 offerings. There was DocuSign, .loop, and something else. And now there's literally pages and pages of, I think we looked up, when we went back to, you can do KWU enablement courses. There's a lot of different things that are there, but there are many of them are free or they're modestly priced. So this is available to you. We have like concierge. We have concierge services that we offer. We're talking about offering at the market center, but this is really good stuff and it's available to you. So, and we looked at just professional services and, just listing tools. So you have a lot of different things that are available to you that can come to you and you can look up. And for those of you that didn't know about that, hopefully now you'll be able to go right into command, go into the marketplace and start to look at the various things that are offered, in here on every tab. I think we looked at a few of these things this morning, just so you have a chance to, there's Market My Listing. It's just a good resource, and it's a combination of KWRI products, KWU enablement products, and really good stuff. Anybody have any comments? A lot of technology stuff out there.
Do we still have relationships with Michael Lewis and the other one?
Yep, we do. And you're talking about Scott Leroy?
Yes.
that we do. So there's a lot of things, what we sometimes don't do a great job of getting the word out. But those are some things that we offer that are there for you and you can use. And, really either free or modestly priced to get you going. And I think several people I've talked to have used that listing option, and they're quite happy with it. So. Let's see. Would you be comfortable talking about the role of the transaction brokerage and when you might begin to act like a single agent? Predominantly, our policy is you're a transaction broker for liability purposes, unless I have a chance to speak with you about it, and I'm very comfortable that you have knowledge of the issues with fiduciary relationships and the additional liability that comes with single agency. But I don't oppose single agency. I think sometimes if it's not fully understood, it can create more issues than it solves. But I know Mark is a single agent. We have 2 or 3 single agents in the office that really like single agency, and they do well with it, and their customers like it. But I think without some additional training and experience, it can be problematic. That's my thinking. I have no trouble if anybody wants to act as a single agent, as long as they talk with me and I'm comfortable that they understand confidentiality and loyalty and a lot of the aspects that come with single agency. That I started out my real estate career 15 years ago as a single agent, and I was trained as a single agent, and I kind of liked it. But as I moved on, I saw a lot of people that didn't understand the whole concept of fiduciary responsibility, and the big differentiation is that your customers are responsible for your actions. So if you go out and make a commitment or do something that would commit a customer to something, they're actually legally responsible for you. So you have to really be cautious. But if you are experienced and you are appreciate the subtleties of single agency, if that's something you're interested in, I bet Mark would be glad to talk to you about it. I'd be glad to talk to you about it. I mean, very familiar with it, but just not sure that it's for everybody.
And what I'm also thinking about is there are times when agents with brokerages that are acting as transaction brokerages, not as single agency, and they begin to behave in a way that makes them sound like they're acting as a single agent, that
Right.
they're advocating for one party almost exclusively and not for the transaction, or not equally balanced.
Yeah, and I think the information sharing method is much different. It's, when you're a single agent and I'm the customer and I say, Mark, what do you think is a fair price to pay for this house? And, we have confidentiality and loyalty and fiduciary relationship. And Mark is free to say, Jeff, I've looked at the market and I've been following this neighborhood for the last few months, and here's what I think. In a transaction brokerage relationship, you'd say, Jeff, I'd be happy to provide you with the information on this market. The last 3 closings have been 1, 2, and 3, and there are a couple of pendings on the market. I've called those agents to see, if I can get more information. But I'm able to provide you with all of the information about the market. But when you're asking my opinion, then you have to be very careful with that, because now I've assumed a different level of responsibility. And I do know, as you point out, Mark, there are a lot of transaction brokers that don't understand the difference and the subtleties of how you relate to your customer, and for that matter, how you relate to your fellow realtor. Things like discussing motivation without permission from your seller. It's tough stuff. It's, if you have a single agent relationship and your seller says it's okay to let people know that I'm transferring, I'm leaving Naples and moving to Peoria. Okay, but if you don't have that permission and you're not able, then you're really not able to divulge that information because it could affect the marketability of the property and the impression that a buyer gets about what's fair price and what's the situation in the market. So.
And my broker would like me to just have you send me an email to that effect.
Right.
In other words, if they say you can share it, ask them to confirm, or you send an email to them asking them to acknowledge that you have the permission to share that information.
100%. In a single agent relationship, when I was practicing as a single agent, I felt like the most important time that I spent was the first 15 or 20 minutes with my customer, explaining to them what single agency means and why, I've chosen to enter into a single agent relationship with you. And that's one of the things that I covered. We can, based on what you share with me and based on what you decide I can share with my fellow realtors, that has all to do with our relationship. In a transaction brokerage relationship, yeah, you really would have to have it in writing from the customer that it's okay to share. Like if you tell people whether they're getting divorced or they're moving back to care for a sick mother, that's tough stuff. You really can't share that information unless you have the express permission of your seller, because it could materially affect the thinking of a buyer and what they're going to offer and how they're going to conduct their negotiations. So that's a great point. And you really want to understand, the limits of a transaction broker, in that your loyalty is to the transaction. Ultimately, you have to be fair and equal with all parties. You cannot disclose information to one side or another to the detriment of another. Whereas if you're a single agent and you're working with a seller or a buyer, you have a confidentiality relationship, you have a fiduciary responsibility, you have more ability to share information than you do as a transaction broker. So, we're default transaction brokers in Florida. Back in 2008, they got the bright idea that you didn't even have to produce a brokerage disclosure, which I didn't think was great. I think that brokerage discussion is a great one to have with your customer. They need to know what your area, what your responsibilities are, and and so I encourage you to use that transaction brokerage notification and to use it to just outline to your customer, what your relationship's going to look like. So I don't know.
I wonder how many people, when they're representing a buyer, assume that the seller is represented under transaction brokerage. And maybe it would be a smart thing to do to ask the listing agent, how is your client represented? Are you transaction brokerage or a single agency?
I disclosed it to the other agent. I just, I didn't want there to be any doubt that I was acting as a single agent.
But it's not in the MLS, and it's not typically an attachment in the MLS. So it's a conversation that would need to take place in order to find it out.
Yeah. And it's interesting that we in the MLS and in the listing contract, we can have different compensation for single agents, transaction brokers, and no brokerage relationships. That's an NAR antitrust reason that's in there, but it's very confusing to people.
Well, especially when the compensation, and I'm not going into discussing specific numbers, but the compensation to the cooperating agent might be one or the other, and oftentimes all three. But I've seen recently where the compensation was only available to transaction brokerage and not available to buyer brokers.
Yeah, it's interesting, and rarely does that ever get enforced. I encourage people when I teach the listing contract to check all three. I mean, why wouldn't you want to compensate somebody? The no brokerage relationship is typically somebody that isn't a member of your MLS that's bringing you a contract, and that's up to you as a broker if you want to offer compensation to somebody that's not a member of your MLS, because that's the only place it's promised. Somebody comes from Miami and says, here's my contract, and they're not a member of our MLS, you don't owe them compensation. Now there's a offering by the Florida Realtors called MLS Advantage, which you can use and access from your desktop in MLS. And that is the promise of compensation for participating MLSs. And there is some discussion underway as to whether or not we default need to offer compensation out of our area of MLS. So that's something that's being discussed, and there may very well be the ability to exclude outside of MLS brokerages from compensation in MLS Advantage. So it's kind of interesting how the times change. There was times when we had 18,000 list. I think we got as high as 14,000 listings, and people were like, "I'll take an offer from anywhere. It doesn't matter, and I'll pay you." But now it's become a little bit more protective in that a lot of agents don't like people coming over from Miami and writing contracts. We'll see how that plays out. I have a tendency to think that this is a short-term issue. When the market gets back to 6, 7, 8,000 listings, where it was for quite a while, that may not be as big an issue. So,
in our area, most Marco Island agents belong to Southwest Florida MLS, in addition to the Marco MLS. But in Lee County, especially in Sanibel, that's not always the case that agents have access to the Sanibel MLS. So I could see a situation where that could be enforced, that if you want the compensation that's in the Sanibel MLS, you must belong to the Sanibel MLS.
And it's $2,000 a year.
Yep.
They're very protective. Of course, a tent pitched on a lot in Sanibel is $4 million. So they have a fairly high price point there.
And if they're really actively working on behalf of the seller for their property, they probably should have their listing in the Southwest Florida MLS anyway, and offer the same compensation.
That's the argument for Marco agents who have 600 or 700 MLS members to be members of the Southwest Florida MLS, which is 24,000. So where would your seller get better exposure? And actually, we've kind of crossed over the bridge where there are more Marco listings in the Southwest Florida MLS than there are in the Marco MLS. So there you go. Kind of an interesting.
Doesn't surprise me, because there are agents in Naples that take Marco listings that don't belong to the Marco MLS.
Yep. And there's still a few agents on Marco that like, well, if it's not listed in our MLS, I'm not going to show it. But that's a dying breed, I think. I think hopefully we'll all be merged as one of these days. So, Peter, you got any questions?
A lot of information, very helpful. Nice to meet everybody. A lot to take in, and look forward to building a relationship with everybody.
Yeah, we normally kind of we dance around a little bit in here. Last week we did a pretty nice contract to close in command, but I try to provide a little bit of market information, because I think the market information is really very important now, to make sure you know what the market is. And when somebody asks you, what's happening in our market, I'm interested in talking about listing my property, or I'm interested in purchasing in a particular area. That market information is very huge, because these markets, even though we're showing you the overall numbers, they behave very differently. Mark can tell you in Pelican Bay, the market doesn't behave like it does in Naples Park or Gray Oaks. So you have to really be market specific, and to be able to dig in and get this information and share it with your customer. Now you're building confidence in your relationship there. They're saying, hey, this Peter, he's done his homework. He knows what he's talking about. And that's a big deal. Marius, can you share your radon experience with us?
Yeah, you know what? Talking about transactional agents and getting extremely high radon result. What you can do, you cannot tell much your buyer, in my case, because the reading was on average 21.3 or so, and at least we got 3 proposals. All of them are promising 100% results or guarantees that the reading after the mitigation will drop below 4, which I hope that's going to be the case. But sincerely, if I would be buying myself a property and I will find that, result after the radon testing, I will run away from it. But what can I do? The clients like it so much. I gave them all the facts. They got all these proposals with all the details, the inspector, interpretation and all that. And they didn't feel any kind of threat or risk, or I don't know. It's lots of people are trying to diminish the impact radon might have on the value of a property. I don't know. As I said, for me, it's a red flag.
Mark, what's your experience with radon?
Well, fortunately, it's been remediated where it's existed. But as the contracts in the market have changed over the years, my concern is the timeframes that almost as soon as we go under contract, if we're going to have a radon inspection, I want it ordered ASAP because we've got, depending on which contract you're using, whether you're using the FAR bar, whether you're using the neighbor contract, the provisions might be different as far as timeframes and notices. And, so let's say you've got a shortened inspection period of 7 days, and you don't get the inspection done to the 4th day, and you get the results on the 6th or 7th day. Doesn't leave you much time to go out and get proposals to figure out what can be done. So you might, and in a tight inventory market, you might not be in a position where you can go back and renegotiate the inspection period time frame or the response time frame the way you would in what I would call traditional market, where we normally have inspection periods of 15 days. And sellers are more motivated to keep the deal together. So that's a long answer to a short question.
I've had several radon experiences, and I've never seen it not get mitigated down to 4. It's just the technology doesn't seem that complicated to me. You're pulling air in from the outside into the plenum of the air conditioner and circulating air. It does have to run so many hours a day. That's one thing that is true, that it's a forced time period, but it just seems unusual that if there was that high of a concentration of radon, that bringing in forced air from the outside would.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how, for people who have sensitivity towards mold, bringing in large quantities of fresh air from the outside, is that going to bring in airborne mold?
It's not just that. It has a filter. The system comes with a filter, but the filter has to be replaced every 3-4 months. Most of the time, the filter, it's way above ground in a location where normal people cannot reach, except if they are pretty fit to go up on a very high ladder or, outside the building, because this is going to be on the outside of the building. And to have the filter replaced, these companies will charge you a couple $100 each time. You multiply that with 3-4 times a year, that's a quite substantial additional cost. On top of that, you have a fan that's supposed to be running all the time as long as you live on the premises. And coming back to your remark about the limitations you have when you don't have a traditional 15-day home inspection period. Mine was only 9 days, and I benefited from 1 extra day because of the long weekend. But what really surprised me was that these radon companies will get back to you with a proposal once they have the floor plan and and the test results in less than an hour. That means this might be a pretty common thing because, you know, it looks like they are moving extremely fast.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that radon is vastly different in with there's basements up north, and that soil is right there. Typically, when I've seen it, it's been places that have been sealed up for a long period of time. Someone passed away, or but in your case, that people were there until last week. So it's
No, they were there until a day before the testing.
That's interesting. I did have radon on the 13th floor of a condo in Park Shore. Figure they were pouring the concrete that day and brought it in from a source that had radon in the soil. So interesting. And the remediation is quite, doesn't seem technologically very sophisticated.
Very rudimentary.
So but I don't know. I've probably had it half a dozen times, and I've always the system went in and worked, and they retested, and it was 0 to 1. So must be some method to it. And if it was not reliable, I would guess they would have come out with a different technology by now. Mark, how many have you had a few times?
Yeah, sporadic over the years. I don't, you know, it might be better to ask a question of somebody who does 50 transactions a year or more, and they probably have more valid information than I do.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. I was surprised at 21. You know, normally if it's in the single digits, it's questionable whether proper ventilation for a while will solve the problem, but it appears, you know, in that particular case, there had to be some radon in the mix that poured the floor for that unit or something like that. That had to be.
I think because they have granite countertops all throughout the kitchen and the bathrooms, it could be also the granite. It's known to emanate radon. The other thing is lots of people do not do radon testing.
Right.
That might hide the frequency of situations that you have elevated levels of radon because the people don't do the test. They have no idea. These people have been living here for 10 years. They never did it.
Well, the other thing is that it's a fairly modest cost relative to other issues like mold. You know, it's a couple $1,000s and it can be put in and done fairly quickly. So it's not as big a problem, I think, as when you get you know, you get some type of allergenic or pathological mold that can be really bad and really expensive. So. All right, guys, that's about all I have for today. And if there's anything else you want to discuss, we'll wrap up a few minutes early. But hopefully if you know, that marketplace is a great place to take a look at other services that might be available to you. They're apparently the listing tools are apparently very well done, and several people that I've talked to that have used them are very, very high on it. So something for you to consider in your bag of tricks there.
Jeff, do you have anything on the calendar that's coming up that's at NABOR as far as contract classes or anything else that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I have we have a contract class. I want to say it's, let me look at the schedule.
And you have an Ask the Attorney panel or something?
Ask the Attorney panel next Tuesday from 9 to 10:30. We have 3 local attorneys on. You can jump on the chat. And you can jump on the chat and ask anything you want. We generally don't want war stories like I'm working on a contract with this and that and the other, but we will take any type of contract question that you want to, and just sitting on there, you will learn quite a few things from the answers and from the participation.
And that's limited to NABOR members, correct?
Yes, you have to register for the class to get the Zoom link. It's all done by Zoom. Friday, we have an insurance, we call it a lunch and learn. We have an insurance forum, and we're going to be reviewing the recent legislation that was passed in the Florida legislature to try to stabilize the insurance markets. And we also have Adam Jonas, who's the chair of Florida Realtors Insurance Committee, who is also a broker and an insurance agent. So he's a wealth of information. He's coming down to appear in person. I'm the vice chair of that committee for whatever that is. And anyhow, we have Trey Goldman, who is very active as legislative counsel to the legislative group up in Tallahassee that does all of our lobbying. He's going to be on either in Zoom or in person. So we'll have a great deal of information about the insurance market, especially the homeowners insurance market, and also the new flood insurance market, which April 1st, we went into FEMA 2.0, which is an entirely different risk rating system for flood insurance. So that one's at NABOR. I believe it's 11 to 12:30 or 12 to 1:30. I'll get that for you while we're talking here. But that might be a good one. And then I'm teaching also a listing contract class. Let's see if I can find this real quick. All right, let me look at the calendar. This thing moves faster than I do. The lunch and learn is from 12 to 1:30. So that's a good, there's going to be a lot of information there. If you're working with any kind of a buyer in this market, they really need insurance help because insurance rates are really not in good shape. There's an awful lot of turmoil in the homeowners insurance market. And there could be changes that you'll see when your customer goes to get flood insurance. And one of the things we're going to recommend strongly is that if your customer can assume the flood insurance policy of an existing homeowner until at least, the next expiration, which could save you a lot of money also. So she'll be a good class there. And that's about all I know. See if I can go here and go here. We do these classes, obviously, Peter, every Monday from 1:30 to around 3, and we try to vary the topics. There's a FARBAR contract class that I'm teaching with Kevin Lotus next Thursday, the 16th, from 9 to 1. That's a 4-hour CE, and it is a pretty good class. Kevin's a great attorney, and we generally do a pretty good job of ham and egging it and getting through the contract. So if you want to learn more about FARBAR, that's the place to do it. So, and that's about it this month. Anything else? All righty, y'all. Enjoy your afternoon. Happy Monday. And we'll see you next week, if not sooner. Thanks. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks.
Marius, thank you.
Have a good one.
Oh, welcome.
See you, Peter. Thank you.